it doesn't look as good as it did on Friday night, admittedly, where you start to think if results go our way at the weekend and we get a win at Harrogate, say, that's pretty much a done deal. So it's not a done deal anymore. Would Andy Crosby have taken this position after that Accrington game, after taking over 12 points from 7 games? Undoubtedly. It's been a brilliant turnaround from him, and last night's result shouldn't tarnish the fact that, we're really disappointed after a narrow defeat away in an away game, having been unbeaten in 6. Fantastic. We've still got daylight between ourselves and Morecambe. Carlisle's implosion this season has really just gifted us the chance to basically average a point per game at the moment, 40 points from 40 games, and be 4 points clear of the drop zone. We would have taken that away after losing at Morecambe on New Year's Day, after losing at home to Accrington 8 games ago. We would have taken this situation. Yes, we're looking over our shoulders again, but the odds suggest that we're going to stay up. Again, looking at data about Tranmere, Morecambe, 75% likelihood that they're still going to go down. Tranmere about 15%, Accrington about 9%, according to the way I've just put some odds into a calculator. So that's on the betting odds point of view. So yeah, we've got Morecambe have obviously given themselves a lifeline by winning consecutive home matches against teams who are we knew how Cheltenham played on Friday. They were fairly poor, weren't they? So it didn't come as a huge surprise that Morecambe did beat Cheltenham last night. It was a good fixture for them. But Morecambe go to Blundell Park on Saturday, and that's a tricky game. And they're big outsiders for that one. And they've lost 14 games away from home this season. They've lost more than we have. And I know that they're scrapping for it at the moment. But like you say, Grimsby have got something to play for. And Accrington, we're only 2 points behind them. We've got a much worse goal difference. But we go to Accrington, don't we, in 2 games' time? And obviously that's going to be a massive game. But all Andy Crosby's going to be doing is just refocusing our minds on the players' minds on Saturday. And the worst part for Andy Crosby was inheriting the team after that Accrington game, where it looked completely doom and gloom. It really was a case of, we're going down here. That isn't the feeling anymore. We're 4 points clear still. We can stretch clear again. We could be 7 points clear if we beat Chesterfield on Saturday, because Morecambe have got a tricky old game, and Accrington are having a bit of a wobble. They're not winning many matches. So there's the likelihood is, even if a neutral came in and looked at the situation, the likelihood is Tranmere are going to stay up. But there is a lot of work still to do. And the players will be fully aware of that. And hopefully the hurt from last night, they'll probably have a rest day today and then or come in late to training later. But the hurt from last night will hopefully serve as fuel to go in against the Chesterfield side, who are losing touch a little bit, and they've still got something to play for as well. But they've lost 10 on the road this season. So they're there to be beaten. And we've taken 2 wins and a draw from our home matches since Crosby took over. So there's plenty of hope, Matt. And I'm still pretty confident we're going to stay up. But I can see why people are still feeling a bit nervous about the situation, because it's far from crystal clear.
Look, I'm well aware that people will be listening to this and say that we've been overcritical in this podcast and it's been a little bit negative. And I am wary of that, because we do have to look at the bigger picture and go, it's 7 games, 1 defeat, 3 wins, 3 draws. And if you'd offered us this position when Nigel Adkins was sacked, that Tranmere would be 4 points clear of the bottom 2, as opposed to, I think it was 2 by the time he went, we'd have absolutely bitten your hand off for that. The frustration comes from the fact that they could have won that game, and then looking at the Morecambe result and Morecambe getting the wins that they've had over the last 2 games to cut the gap down. But ultimately, I still think that the weekend of the 12th is absolutely huge. Tranmere at Accrington, Morecambe host Carlisle. Tranmere may well be above Accrington in the table by the time that game finishes, which could mean that they are in 21st place, or it could mean they're in 22nd place. But either way, if they get themselves above Accrington, which is plausible, then Tranmere will not be in the relegation zone, because Carlisle cannot overtake them over the next 2 games. If they win their next game, which they might do, if Morecambe slip up, the gap is back to at least 6 points. And therefore, you're asking Morecambe to win 2 more games than Tranmere do over the remaining 5. So there are still going to be big swings, big swings over the remaining weeks of the season. But every week that Tranmere managed to pick up a win is going to be a real hammer blow to the two teams below them, particularly if one of those wins comes at Accrington, where traditionally they've done pretty well.
Yeah. They Tranmere. Tranmere were defensively at fault yesterday, but they created like a ton of chances increasingly as the game wore on. I went to Walsall Wimbledon on Saturday with the kids because we just watch football everywhere these days. So we went to the Bescot and I watched Walsall Wimbledon, and Tranmere are playing at the same level as a team like Wimbledon. Wimbledon were nothing special. They got their noses in front, got pegged back as well. And I said to the kids, I said, honestly, Tranmere played better than this yesterday at Cheltenham. Tranmere played like better than this at Fleetwood in terms of like the way in which they created chances and their defensive solidity. I said, there's just so little difference. And obviously we've just like woken up from like this like sleepwalking into the relegation area, but during like the first 2/3 of the season as well. So we're not playing like a team who are 22nd in the table. We're playing, we're a decent League Two team now. Admittedly, the defensive issues need to be looked at last night. Crosby's not a fool. He was a defender himself, I think, and he'll understand what needs to be done. But yeah, and he's the man for the job. He'll require the players to stand up and be counted as well. There's so much fighting spirit within that group. The team haven't stopped. If some of the players stop playing for Adkins, none of them are not stopped playing for Crosby. They're playing for him. They're out there. They're giving their all. He's demanding that competition for places. They've got to work hard on the training field to get in there as well. So yeah, I think we'll be okay. But like you say, it's just a weird time of the season, isn't it?